Thank you, Claudia. Awesome. Thank you, Claudia. And welcome, everyone. As Claudia mentioned, you're making history. This is the very first CPS Educators Forum. So, welcome to today. I'd like to thank you for joining us for this forum today. This will be a bi-monthly forum and is for all technicians and instructors. This first one, however, is geared towards instructors. My name is James Fitzpatrick, Community Engagement Representative on the National Child Passenger Safety Board, and I'm very honored to be here to moderate today's CPS Educators Forum. Today's speakers are former National Child Passenger Safety Board members Mandy and Alexis, and current National Child Passenger Safety Board member and CPS Advocate Representative Brittany. We do have planned time at the end for questions, so please enter those questions in the Q&A box. Excuse me. If we go to the next slide, please, Claudia. As a reminder, attendees are requested to not participate in this webinar if you are operating a motor vehicle. The forum will be recorded and you can listen to the recording when you safely arrive at your destination. The recording will be posted to the Child Passenger Safety Learning Portal at carseateducation.org in 1 to 2 business days. And with that, we'll turn it over to our outstanding team of presenters today.
Just trying to get my slides shared here. Give me one moment. Okay, perfect. Hi, everyone. I'm Brittany Lombard. As James mentioned, I am the current Child Passenger Safety Advocate on the board and one of the co-chairs of the Curriculum Certification Committee. So we are excited today to talk to you about the Instructor Prep Guide and where to find all the answers you could think of. So the first step is going to be accessing the instructor materials. You are all familiar with the partnership organizations as introduced in Module 1. So let's talk about where you can find the different resources for course delivery and certification. Safe Kids Worldwide is, of course, our certifying body. So on the certification website at cert.safekids.org, you will find the Policies and Procedures Manual, instructor candidate and tech proxy paperwork, and information on certification and recertification. The National Child Passenger Safety Board, managed by the National Safety Council, maintains the quality and integrity of the CPST certification training curriculum. CPSboard.org hosts course delivery resources, including all of the protected instructor materials, the CPST certification training resources, the 2024 Technician Guide, and supporting and supplemental resources. Today, we are going to focus on the CPS Board's resource, the Instructor Prep Guide, and all of the information found within. To access instructor resources and find the Instructor Prep Guide, visit cpsboard.org. Do not log in on that little login in the top right-hand corner. Instead, you're going to scroll down until you see the Instructor Resources box in the center. Click on the Learn More button in the Instructor Resources box. This will bring you to cpsboard.org/instructor-resources. And on this page, you will access the instructor resources. All instructor resources are password protected to limit access to instructors and instructor candidates. If you remember your password, you can use the Instructor Materials button. Your password is going to be the same as what you've been using to access the 2020 curriculum. If you do not remember your password, you can log in through your Safe Kids CPS certification account, and you will find that password in the action items after you've logged into your Safe Kids certification profile. The Instructor Prep Guide is the very first resource under the Training Resources tab. Do make sure that you're accessing the latest version by checking the revision date listed to the right. This newest version will contain all hybrid delivery information as well. Please notice the IPG has an updated title. We added the subtitle, A Training Delivery Guide for the Instructor Team. The National Child Passenger Safety Board updated this document name so that we could stress the importance of all instructor team members using the instructor prep guide for each course. The prep guide is full of resources and answers to your course delivery questions. So we are going to overview those contents today, but definitely don't have time to cover all of the amazing material within. So please do take some time to read through this document. And I am going to start by covering the sections listed on the slide here. After a brief about the course section, you'll find a section on planning a course. Even if you have planned several courses before, there's a lot of valuable information in this section and specifically information relating to the 2024 delivery. So definitely revisit this. You will find course delivery team position descriptions. We are asking the entire instructor team to read these role descriptions because this will actually help set course expectations and requirements. So, instructors on the team, when they're reading it, might actually learn something new that excites them to take on a new role. For example, did you know that a course administrator does not need to be a CPSTI once they complete and submit a course administrator application to Safe Kids Worldwide? Maybe you have a great course assistant on your team that would be eager to take on those extra responsibilities. You will also see course delivery requirements, which include a minimum of 2 instructors must be listed when registering a course. All course instructors, ICs, and course assistants who are interested in instructor candidacy are required to attend a pre-course meeting for each course. And all members of the instructor team are responsible for ensuring that the curriculum is delivered in its entirety in modular order. After the requirements, you'll find some of the recommendations, including the recommended maximum instructor to student ratio, which is 1 to 5. A maximum of 25 students per course is recommended. And the course lead instructor should not serve as the primary mentor for an instructor candidate. Then we have the next section, which is the curriculum overview. This one is really packed full of good information, so definitely check through. Approximate time lengths for each module, quiz, and skills evaluation are included. The timing of the quiz and skills evaluations are separated from the preceding module times, so you have a more accurate representation of the timing of each component. You will see a proposed 3 and 4 day agenda later in the IPG. And did you know that both delivery formats, hybrid and in person, have been approved for 24 contact hours of continuing nursing education by the Emergency Nurses Association? You can contact Safe Kids Worldwide if you intend to provide those CNE for the nurses in your class. There's also a table highlighting the organization of the hybrid delivery formats, which includes learning blocks by module and when the skills and quizzes are conducted. The hybrid delivery format provides flexibility for different learning styles because it allows students to work at their own pace. It allows them to repeat practice activities and revisit course content after they've completed it. Each student will be assigned a coach from the instructor team, which allows more of a one on one mentorship style throughout the course. Hybrid delivery also follows the Learn, Practice, Educate model, with LPE activities conducted both live during the virtual sessions and individually with videos that are sent to the student's coach. Certification is dependent on completion of all the requirements, which are listed for you in the instructor prep guide, both for the in-person and hybrid delivery formats. As a refresher, retakes of quizzes and skills evaluations are not allowed. Because there are no retakes, it's really important to ensure that your students know that accommodations can be made ahead of time by speaking with an instructor. In the instructor resources section, you'll find some helpful hints for navigating the new 2024 instructor guide as shown here. So number 1 shows you the slide thumbnail that the students are looking at. Number 2 shows the corresponding technician guide page number and, if needed, a white box which shows the portion of the page covered by the slide. I already had the privilege of teaching, and I love this one because it is really, really easy to just call out to the students. You should be on the bottom of page 2. Keeps everyone on the right track. 3 is do, which is an instructor directive. 4 is say, which is instructor scripting. Uh, Listed under number 5 is the instructor guide footer with the instructor guide page number. 6 is showing you the technician guide page thumbnail, and all of those technician guides have this blue border or background on them, so it's really easy to see what the students are looking at. And 7 is the technician guide footer with the TG page number. Please do note the do and say prompts on each page. The corresponding instructor guide content for each PowerPoint slide is the same directive as what's in the note page for that slide. And if you follow these prompts, it will make sure that you don't miss any pertinent information on each slide as you're teaching. For Module 7, there are customized presentations with a summary of the state or territory child passenger safety and seatbelt laws, which is going to be in between slides 17 and 18. And the instructor prep guide will remind you that the information on these laws was gathered from ghsa.org forward slash state hyphen laws. So use the Module 7 PowerPoint presentation with the U.S. state or territory law that best meets the demographic of the students in the training. Further customization of Module 7 PowerPoint presentations is not available. So if you have students from outside the selected state or territory in your course, we suggest you use supplemental law handouts for the other states and/or territories. This section also covers instructions and tips for using the PowerPoint presentations, including information about which versions of PowerPoint are compatible with the 2024 curriculum, and it even shows you how to check which version of PowerPoint that you have. Use of the PowerPoint presentation for each module is required. The slides must be delivered in order and may not be altered in any way, including addition or deletion of content. Did you know that these 2024 curriculum videos that are embedded in the slides now have the option to include closed captioning for your students? And there are instructions on how to turn on the closed captioning in the instructor prep guide. You'll also find in this section all of the curriculum forms available for both in-person and hybrid delivery formats. This will really help you to understand what you need to print for your courses. All of these updated materials are found in the Protected Instructor Materials section on cpsboard.org. And what you're looking at here is the Student Vehicle Information Form, which has been updated to align with terminology changes and to make it more useful for the instructor team when they're setting up activities and skills evaluations. We've also added a seating grid like the grid found on car seat check forms on the vehicle cards, so that gives students an opportunity to practice using the seat grids. All of the activity worksheets that require either an instructor sign off or for information to be recorded are also available for download in the Protected Instructor Materials. Each worksheet is an exact copy of the respective activity in the technician guide. The use of these worksheets is optional, but it's great for instructor preparation, and it is also good for students that don't want to write in their technician guide. The instructor prep guide also contains a list of resources for students as they are using and building their new skills in the field. For example, the 2024 CPST certification training videos are available on the National Child Passenger Safety Board's YouTube channel, which you can find at youtube.com/CPS board. They have their own playlists, 2024 CPST certification training. And for those in hybrid courses, when they're accessing the material in carseateducation.org, they can only access modules and segments in sequential order. However, once they've completed those segments, they can return to review and revisit that previous material anytime. Then there is an entire section in the IPG that covers the ins and outs of the hybrid delivery format, including how to access course content and completion requirements. So if maybe you've been considering a hybrid course and you aren't exactly sure where to start, this is a really, really good guide. There are a few important differences to know about the hybrid course setup, including the creation of a group in the Child Passenger Safety Learning Portal, which happens 1 week before the kickoff session. For this reason, the IPG will guide you to communicate any late registrations by email to training@cpsboard.org, and that will ensure those students are added to your group before that course begins. Page 31 of the instructor prep guide, potentially the most helpful page of all, preparing to deliver a course, is a checklist for every member of the instructor team. So if you're working with instructors that say, I'm ready to start this new curriculum, but I don't know where to start, send them to page 31 of the instructor prep guide. It is a step-by-step checklist. We hope it will be helpful for all instructors and instructor candidates as they prepare to deliver the 2024 curriculum. And each step does actually include the links of where they can find affiliated student and instructor materials. The next section is quiz guidance. So I thought I would give you a little one question quiz. Keep the answer to yourself, but let's see if you have it right. For our instructors and instructor candidates, true or false? Students are allowed to use electronic devices to research quiz answers. What do we think? This one is true. Students can use technology to research answers, but cannot communicate with other students or instructors via technology. Did you get the right answer? Make sure that you read through the rest of the quiz requirements to ensure you know all the guidelines for administering quizzes, including completion times and accommodation allowances. At the beginning of the course, instructors must ask if there are any specific accommodations for learning or testing needs to meet the requirements for course completion. Students must be encouraged to discuss this with an instructor as a one-on-one conversation and should not be discussed with the full class. There are several accommodations that can be made, including allowing 2 separate testing rooms, a silent testing room, and a reading room. There is also a page of quiz instructions to read to students before the quiz so that these requirements and expectations are clear to them. You'll hear more about quiz review questions later as they are toward the end of the instructor prep guide. And now I'm going to hand it over to Mandy to share some other important information.
Thanks so much, Brittany. All right, give me just a quick second. All right. Are you seeing the right screen or do I need to swap them?
You are good.
Okay. Well, thank you, everybody, and welcome. I'm so glad you're here today. And thank you, Brittany. I think both she and I would share that we could take probably an entire day to review the instructor prep guide. It's pretty amazing.
Mandy, you actually are showing your presenter view. I'm sorry.
All right. See, you can tell I was going to thank Brittany, talk about who I was. So my name is Mandy Seetaler. I'm the statewide child passenger safety coordinator for Alaska. And I recently rolled off the board as the public engagement representative, and I'm really delighted to be here today. So I'm excited to share with you more about the instructor prep guide. As Brittany mentioned, it is a training delivery guide for the whole instructor team. I want to talk to you a little bit more about what you're going to find in here. I'm going to cover the skills evaluations, checklists, materials, quiz review, and a few of the curriculum resources. I encourage each of you to read it cover to cover. It is about 100 pages. It's actually, I think, 101. And then also to discuss it during your mandatory pre-course meeting, which there's a little agenda for you on page 62 of the instructor prep guide. So if you have a scratch paper, I am going to reference a lot of page numbers so you can write them down. And as Claudia mentioned in the chat, if you have questions, please put them in the Q&A. So there are 4 skills evaluations, and these are administered to assess the student's ability to correctly identify vehicle systems, select and use the correct car seat and booster seats, identify misuse. There are still 4 skills evaluations, and there are no retakes. And with the exception of skills 4, each of them have been updated. Skills 1, vehicle system. Skills 2, select and install car seats and booster seats. Skills 3, putting it all together. And skills 4 is our checkup event. So we're going to dive into these just a little bit. Beginning on page 38 of your instructor prep guide are the instructor guidelines for administering the skills evaluation. There are 3 pages to this overview. And it is going to talk about the testing and accessibility accommodations, general guidelines, post-skills evaluations, and options for when a skills evaluation is not completed successfully. As Brittany mentioned, and I'm going to double up on some of what she said, but it's really important and it applies to both. At the beginning of the course, the instructors must ask if there are specific accommodations for learning or testing that would help meet the students' needs. And again, we encourage you to have these conversations in private and give the student a chance to discuss what their needs are. But during introductions or right before the course and before each skills evaluation, you can remind them that they're permitted to ask for an accommodation. The general guidelines talk a little bit about skills in general. Again, we're going to go into some other specific to each skills. Students must work independently. And as Brittany mentioned, they can use their electronic devices. They can search for answers like looking up car seat instructions or manuals or vehicles recalls, etc. So do you ever wonder, am I supposed to do this or what am I supposed to do? You are going to find the answer to that question in here. The instructor guidelines talk about what kind of answers you can give, what sort of assistance you can give. You can define a term, but you can't give information. It talks about whether or not the instructor candidate can sign off on skills evaluations, which they can, as long as their mentor is willing to sign behind them. And just a quick reminder that we're not supposed to share the skills evaluation with non-course participants. There's also some information in there on post-skills evaluations. It tells us all that we should sit back and look at how our students are doing, and if we need to make some adjustments, if we need to slow down a little bit, how can we make sure that our students are successful? And then it does list out the options of what happens if a student is not successful. And we want to handle this in a very respectful way. We don't want to do it in front of the entire course. And this is something that you should plan for when you have your pre-course instructor meeting. So if they don't successfully complete the skills evaluations, they can stay for the remainder of the course, although they won't be certified, or they can choose to leave. As a quick note, they can keep their technician guide. All right, so on to skills 1. And we are going to kick off with pages 38 through 40. There are some very specific instructions for the skills evaluation for vehicle systems. As a quick note, it has been reduced from 5 to 4 scenarios from the 2020 curriculum, and students will still have 3 attempts for each scenario. One point to clarify is the time for completion. So in the instructor prep guide, we do recommend that students have 60 minutes to complete the skills or a predetermined time limit. Let me give you an example of how that could work. So you're going to have several students in a class and you tell them, hey, we're going to take an hour and we're going to do this skills evaluation. And you have one student who puts in all their effort and they really hustle to get things done, maybe not taking as much time as they would like. And you have another student that takes the hour and isn't done. And so you extend the time. Well, your first student is really hustled to make the time and then you've extended the time, and that's not really a fair testing environment for both. So whatever time you determine is what you have to stick to. So you can say it's an hour, which is what we recommend, or you can give a little bit longer. But if the students are unable to complete all of the scenarios within the time frame that you have set aside, you have to mark a fail on the skills evaluation sheet. And that is kind of hard, but that's That's how it's written, and that's how it's in the instructor prep guide. And all of that information is written down verbatim for you. In this instructor prep guide on page 41, there are specific instructions about setting up skills evaluation 1. It reminds you to use the student vehicle occupation restraint systems details form that the students or the instructors complete at the beginning of the course. It reminds you to create 4 distinct scenarios, maybe with duplicate stations. Again, you want to make sure that all of your students are evaluating the same systems. So again, several pages of information. The administrative guidelines on page 42 and 43 are a must read for whoever is administering the skills evaluation. Talks about establishing the time. It reminds you not to score a skills evaluation that doesn't have a name on it. It tells you what to do if a student is missing one when they go back and retry. You can't point out, hey, you missed this section, you need to go back and try. You just need to let them know that something's wrong, and then they need to go back and look at it, and encouraging them to use their technician guide. On the 3rd attempt, if a student is struggling, you do need to have a different instructor evaluate the attempt. Again, that's all written out right here in the instructor prep guide. There are some reminders about the options of what to do if it's not successfully completed. Now, as Brittany also mentioned in the quizzes, in the skills evaluation for each one, there is a required page for you to read to your students. For skills 1, it's on page 44, and it's about 1.33 pages. It's going to take a solid 3 minutes or so to read. And this isn't optional. This is something that we're supposed to be doing as instructors. So make sure you are prepared to do that, and you pulled up your instructor prep guide when you're ready to give the skills evaluation. Okay, on to skills 2. So this begins on instructor prep guide, page 46. Select and install car seats. From the 2020 curriculum, this has been reduced from 10 scenarios down to 9. There are now 3 selection and harnessing scenarios compared to 4. And the child's age and weight in each selection have also been updated. And as a reminder, each of the students will have 3 attempts at each scenario. A quick reminder, on page 84, there is the activities by module section. And you're going to find out what dolls you need. As a quick note, you do need a 4-pound doll for this one. So the recommended time for this scenario is 1 hour and 45 minutes, or again, a predetermined time limit. You can say it's going to be 2 hours. You can say it's going to be 3 hours, whatever you need to do. But remember, all students should have the same amount of time. And again, if they're unable to complete all the scenarios, they do fail the skills evaluation. There are guidelines in this section. It talks about the required use of dolls or dummies or stuffed animals for the harness selection. And as a reminder, all students should be installing the same car seat in the same seating position in the same vehicle. So that might require some duplicate scenarios. I think I'm going to have to take a look at my training seats and make sure I've got some duplicates so I can set those up on either side to make sure that we can get through this, this skills evaluation. There is instructions in the instructor prep guide that it is okay to use a mock or a demo seat for the locking clip. Again, as long as the entire instructor team agrees on it, and you can talk about that in your mandatory instructor meeting. There are administrative guidelines for skills 2, page 47 and 48. Again, 2 full pages. Talks about the time limits, the clarification about following car seat manufacturer's instructions, a little note about tether use and use of the dolls. And it reminds us as instructors that we should be prompting the students to tell us, how did you adjust the harness? How did you lock the seat at a fixed seatbelt at a fixed length? So it's a great time for our students to practice their communication skills as we're doing the evaluation. And as a reminder, the students can't change their answer, but they do get 3 attempts. And again, you can't tell them which part of the skills evaluation is wrong. They need to go back and take a look at the whole scenario. Once again, there is a read to student. This is on page 49 and 50. This one is almost a page and a half, I believe. And again, it'll take you 3 to 4 minutes. So be prepared. On to skills 3, putting it all together. So as you know, there was a big shift in the 2020 curriculum to do this one a little bit differently. And in the 2024 curriculum revision, this has been completely redone. There are all new images. And for the instructors that have taught this before, they are no longer included in the back of the technician guide. They are going to be sent separately from Safe Kids with your first course. And then you can opt in or out to receive additional sets. So the image sets are designed to be used and reused. As an instructor in the instructor protected materials, you are able to download a sample of the images, but these aren't for testing. These are just for you to check out. So the recommended time for this skills evaluation is about 45 minutes, or again, a predetermined time. And the students must answer 24 of the 30 questions correctly. It looks like Kinsey might have a question. If it's about skills 3, why don't we take a quick second and answer that? Can somebody help me see the question? All right, well, somebody's looking that up. In the prep for the administrative guidelines for skills 3, it does talk again about the read to students. It reminds you again about making sure that students that need accommodations can have them. And one quick note on all of the skills evaluation. Brittany mentioned about the quizzes, how there's 2 rooms. You'll have the same option here. And when your students are done with the quizzes and skills 3, before they take it, you should decide, are they going to stay in the room and stay quiet, or are you going to ask them to go out in the hallway? But all the students should be doing the same thing. Again, that creates a testing environment that's the same for all students. Brittany, I saw you come on. Did you want to read the question? Not Brittany, I'm sorry, it was Kendra.
No, sorry, Claudia's Wi-Fi went out, so I just logged on to keep
Okay.
everything going.
Okay, perfect. All
I'll
right,
jump in quick, Mandy, if you don't mind.
yeah,
There's like
that'd be
2
great.
quick questions for you.
Yeah.
So first one is, could you clarify what you meant by having duplicate seats for skills 2?
Yeah, I sure can. So each student should test on the same vehicle, installing the same seat in the same seating position. So if you wanted to set up duplicate stations, you could put the same car seat in on opposite sides. You know, if you're doing the outboard seats, in the middle, you couldn't set up a duplicate station. But what you can't do is take one car seat and put it in one car and one car seat and put it in another for skills 2, and have students do different vehicles and different seats. All students should be tested on the same car seat in the same vehicle with the same seating system. Does that answer the question?
Amazing. Thank you. We'll let you keep rolling and we'll hit some questions up at the end.
Okay, that sounds great. As a reminder, the read to students for skills evaluation 3 is on page 53. Okay, on to skills evaluation 4. It does remain the same as in the 2020 curriculum. On page 54, there are 2 pages that describe the mandatory checkup event that must take place for 120 minutes or 2 hours. This is one where you can go longer if you want, but it is mandatory to have it for at least 2 hours. This does not include your setup, your takedown, or your debrief. It is okay if it's open to the public, or if it's appointment-based, if it's at a fire station, or if it's at a regular fitting station. Additionally, there are instructions about low attendance or emergency guidelines. If you live in an area where weather could impact whether or not you can have your event, this section tells you exactly what to do. On page 56, there's a page and a half of administrative guidelines. Again, you should read these. What we want is we want everyone to know what the expectation is, and we all want to do it the same, no matter who's the course lead or who your instructor team is. So on the check form for the skills 4, I wanted to clarify that there's a spot for 2 car seat checks, and there are 10 action items. In order to pass skills 4, a student must have at least 7 yeses. So there's 10 action items, and the instructor can choose, yes, they demonstrated this action, no, they did not, or NA, which means they didn't have the opportunity to do that. And that's why there's 2 seat checks, so that they can have 2 different chances to do it. If they can get all of their yeses in one seat check, they don't necessarily have to do a second. The second is an option to meet any yeses that they didn't get. So, for example, one of the action items is demonstrated a knowledge of state laws and how it relates to good, better, best. Did your student do this? Yes, no, or NA. If a student receives a no, it's a fail, which is, again, a little bit hard to understand, but they have to be able to demonstrate these 10 skills. So they need at least 7 yeses, 3 NAs is okay. And if you have questions about that, we can take some more questions at the end. All right, I've got a couple of quick more things to tell you about. If some of you are wondering, we are going to be using the National Digital Check Forms while we teach the modules, even if you use a different check form for for skills evaluation 4, that is allowed. You do have to set aside a little bit of time to review your form, but while teaching the course, it is required that you use the National Digital Check Form. This is just one of the slides. We're going to teach students to use it as we go. It's really fantastic. And version 9 was released in late January of the NDCF, and that's a paper form you'll print out for your students when you prepare for a course. Just as a quick note to everybody, students are not required, but they are able to use the NDCF training app during the course if they choose. Again, they are not required. This is a free app available on Apple, Android, and Amazon, and you can use it today, or you can share it with technicians in your state if they'd like to give it a go. Okay, on to checklists. I made a huge list of all the checklists that are available on pages 59 through 67. So you don't have to recreate the wheel. You can access these checklists and they're all prepared for you. There's a course administration checklist that is 3 pages long. There is an instructor checklist that is a page and a half. It includes all the reminders that you're going to need. Use the IPG, check for curriculum updates. There's a reminder that there's an audit checklist for as an instructor, a pre-course meeting suggested agenda, what do you do if your roster is not right, and what do you need to do after the course. That audit checklist is on page 101. The equipment and supplies checklist, there are several sections. There's general, there's course equipment, there's course materials. There's an audio-visual checklist. If it's not something you set up all the time, this is going to help you make sure you've got everything just right. There's some recommendations on what features you're looking for in your car seat and booster seat variety. Make sure you've got everything you need. Vehicle features, that one's a little bit harder to follow, but it does suggest what vehicle features would be nice to have. And there's a print checklist of all the stuff you want to put in your student folder, which is really helpful. And there's so many things in there, which includes some of the optional job aids. Okay, there are sample materials, which are going to be super helpful for you. There are some drafts of emails to send out for your in-person course, for your hybrid course. There's a sample 3-day agenda. There's a sample 4-day agenda. All of the materials that you could need. You don't need to recreate anything from scratch. And if you find that we're missing something, you can go to the curriculum feedback form and suggest it, because if you want it, I'll bet a few others do too. Okay, we're almost there. There is an activities by module list. So you might have one agenda for your students. Hey, here's what you're doing, but you can use this list for your instructors. While one instructor is teaching module 2, here's what the rest of us need to do to prepare for module 3 or 4 and on. It lays out everything that you need to know about what's coming up through the curriculum. The hybrid delivery resources are all here. Again, you don't need to create PowerPoints. You don't have to create lists. These are in the instructor protected materials, and they are all available to you as instructors. Brittany mentioned the hybrid endorsement. Any instructor that earned the endorsement with the 2020 curriculum automatically has the hybrid endorsement for the 2024. All of the modules are accessible. You can jump around as much as you like, and you can use those. As a quick note, I actually like to review the hybrid before I teach. It's a quick reminder of what's in the module and helps me prepare in addition to using my instructor guide. So even if you don't plan to teach a hybrid, I would get hybrid endorsed so that you can use it to learn yourself. If you would like to become hybrid endorsed, send an email to training@cpsboard.org and make sure you include your instructor number in that email. As Brittany mentioned, the quiz review questions are in the instructor prep guide. There is a quiz review for each quiz. There are 3 of them. And when the review question comes up, there's a little note on there that tells you what page it is in the technician guide. So if you want to have a better or longer discussion with your students, you know exactly where to send them and you can all review it together. But there are 3 reviews. Last one, I just wanted to mention that there are so many resources available for you. I put a few samples on here. There is a planning guide for checkup events and inspection stations. Install a locking clip. For those of you that are using belt shortening clips, there is a printed material. There's also a great video on the CPS board YouTube channel. All of the flow sheets are available for download, so you can do that. And now they are available in grayscale. This just happened a few days ago. So if you're printing, they make a really great copy now in grayscale. Lastly, always check to make sure that you're using the most recent materials. The updates are posted here and they are by month. So you can click the little plus sign and that will give you a drop down and show you what has been updated. But everything is listed here, so you'll always know if you have the most recent materials. Suggestions, questions, and kudos are always welcome. You're going to find this curriculum feedback form at cpsboard.org. It is on the right-hand side of almost every page. We'd love to hear from you. Please don't hesitate. Every one of those curriculum feedback forms are reviewed and they are vetted as they are received. So, Alexis, I'm going to turn it over to you. Thanks so much. Stop and share.
Wonderful. Let me just get this.
I can't find my mouse. It disappeared on me. Bear with me. I'm using two screens and I can't get it off the other screen. This is really embarrassing. There we go. All right. Thanks, Alexis.
Can everyone see my screen? Let me start my presentation. There we go.
Perfect.
Am I perfect? Wow, that's a first. Well, first of all, Brittany and Mandy, thank you so much for sharing this incredible information. As an instructor, I learned a lot, and it is a step-by-step guide, which is so incredibly helpful. So thank you. So welcome, everyone, and thank you for inviting me to present today. My name is Alexis Caggiulari, and I'm the program manager for the National Pediatric Vehicular Heat Stroke, PVH, which you'll hear me say a lot, campaign. The National Safety Council is managing this initiative, collaborating with both national and statewide through offering guidance, resources, and support to identify, manage, and sustain effective countermeasures. Before I begin, I want to take a moment to acknowledge Jan Null for noheatstroke.org. If you've ever used his website to be able to collect the data, that is our go-to place. His work has been tirelessly done. Data collection and passion have laid the foundation for so much of what we know about PVH today. His dedication to eliminating this 100% preventable tragedy continues to inspire and guide our efforts. Through Jan's work, we now know since 1998, there are over 110 documented cases of children dying from PVH. As of January 2025, on an average, 53% of children were forgotten. 1 out of 4 children have died at the workplace. 25% gained access and 21% knowingly left. These numbers probably seem very familiar to all of you. They have not changed that much in the last decade. We feel that these numbers could be underrepresented due to the lack of universal coding in the field, and this is just the tip of the iceberg. Today, I'm going to share 2 opportunities for you to join us, one at a national level and one how you can be able to develop your own state task force. Also, where to find credible resources, easy to share. Hot cars might only affect your state a few months out of the year. However, as we all know, leaving children unsupervised in a car is a real danger no matter what the season. The first opportunity is joining us nationally. The National PVH Stakeholders Work Group was formed to bring together diverse experts and organizations to address this complex and preventable issue through a systems approach. You can see that our next meeting is going to be on April 24th at 2 p.m. So anyone interested, you'll get my contact information to reach out. You're more than welcome to join. The work group includes members from a variety of backgrounds, such as public health, transportation safety, law enforcement, child advocacy, technology, research, and parent advocates, ensuring every single angle is considered when developing these countermeasures. We meet quarterly to collaborate, share data and emerging research, and advance national prevention strategies. To drive the process between meetings, We've established subcommittees focused on key areas such as state task force development, communications, and legislative and policy. Together, the work groups develop and promote effective countermeasures from education and outreach materials to technology innovations and policy best practices, all aimed at achieving the shared goal of eliminating preventable hot car deaths. So here are our subcommittees that you could be able to join. The communication subcommittee is focused on creating a turnkey, ready-to-use national PVH communication packet. This packet is designed to help retailers or corporations educate their staff and customers on the dangers of PVH. It will include practical and impactful tools such as customizable letters, so it's making it easy to be able to reach out to retail partners, that you can use with printable and digital graphics that you can have done, that you can co-brand, such as parking lot signs, window clings, posters. Also tools to introduce the free NSC 10-minute e-learning module, both in English and Spanish, called Children in Hot Cars, along with other useful resources. The goal is to make raising awareness simple, accessible, and widespread. The Legislative and Policy Subcommittee is working on developing a set of best practices to guide states and organizations in crafting effective policy and legislative measures. These recommendations will serve as a foundation for consistent, impactful advocacy and implementation across the country. And lastly, one that I'm working on closely with is developing a state task force model, and this committee will support that. It's focused on capacity building. They are cultivating a library of impactful 15-minute presentations from national leaders, experts in emerging vehicle safety technologies, and those with proven best practices. These presentations will be shared with state-level stakeholders to support their local efforts in PVH prevention. Together with these three subcommittees are helping drive a unified strategic approach to ending PVH. The second opportunity is starting a state task force. We are developing a model for state PVH task forces where groups and individuals come together to raise awareness through education, advocacy, and policy initiatives. These task forces work to address local and state needs while aligning with national PVH prevention efforts. Texas developed their very first state task force back in 2015, where fatalities rose and Johnny Humphreys and advocates came together to address these elevated numbers. They're still going strong and they're sharing their knowledge with us in developing the national model. Florida started their task force in 2024 and is also being used to be able to help develop the model for all the other states. Virginia and Minnesota are brand new and they're just getting started. Virginia is actively recruiting with over 20 member applications submitted for their kickoff just before May 1st. Why a state PVH task force, may you ask? As safety professionals and advocates, you are already doing the critical work of protecting lives. And that's exactly why forming a state-level task force on PVH prevention is a natural fit. This is an opportunity to officially collaborate with others within your state and bring visibility to the issue that's 100% preventable. By creating an official forum for collaboration, you can bring together both traditional and non-traditional partners, from first responders and CPSTs to gas station owners, banks, retailers, or car dealerships, wherever people say, "I'll be right back in just a minute." These diverse voices can help you identify new pathways to reach families where they live. A task force also provides structure to track outreach efforts, share resources, and identify gaps in education or engagement across communities in the state. Best of all, they're free. Value-added programs available, turnkey resources, expert presentations, and support that you can just plug right into your efforts. You don't have to build everything from scratch. You have that available that can be customized. This is about taking what we already do best, protecting the most vulnerable, and expanding the impact with a focused, collaborative approach. Let's work together to make PVH prevention a priority at the state level. The state guide serves as a resource to help states establish a state PVH task force tailored to their specific needs and priorities. The structure, roles, and subcommittees outlined in this guide are only suggestions. They're designed to provide a strong foundation for states statewide efforts to prevent PVH deaths. Each state has unique challenges, resources, and stakeholder networks. Task forces are encouraged to customize their structure, leadership, and outreach strategies to align with their local communities' existing safety programs and legislative landscape. Whether building a task force from the ground up or enhancing an existing initiative, this guide provides flexible recommendations that can be adapted to ensure maximum impact. Once you've made the decision to start a state PVH task force, here are some suggestions. We start the member recruitment, think broad, pull in those traditional and untraditional partners. Next step would be monthly meetings. We found that has helped the momentum keep going. We do monthly meetings in the state of Florida, and I think Texas is gearing up for that as well. These regular touch points will help maintain engagement, track progress, and build accountability among your partners. To give your task force a recognizable identity, we ask that you do a state-specific logo. It doesn't have to be fancy, just something that can help unify your outreach materials and build visibility. And we can help you design your logo if you need help. Then launch a dedicated state webpage. NSC has created a model webpage that is customized by each state. The landing page houses key information, contact details, and links to shareable resources. It helps provide a home base for your task force and gives the public and your stakeholders a place to connect. Finally, work with your group to identify messaging and resources that resonate with your state's community. Now, before I'm going to leave you, I want to make sure you know where to go to get some credible resources that are easy for you to use. One really valuable resource is the free NSC 10-minute e-learning course called Children Hot Cars. It comes in English and Spanish. It's designed to raise awareness and change behavior around PVH. What makes this tool really special is that folks can be able to sign up for a group administration feature. And if you haven't done it already, this option allows organizations and agencies or coalitions to easily invite employees, partners, or caregivers to complete the training. It tracks participation and completion rates in real time, generates reports to measure impact and accountability. And people have utilized this course annually. So they ask their employees to be able to take it annually to give them a refresher. It's a turnkey, zero-cost solution that works well with your employees, childcare providers, community groups, and anyone looking to make PVH education part of their ongoing training or safety efforts. Whether you're just getting started or looking to scale your outreach, this tool makes it easy to educate and engage your stakeholders with no burden on your team. So here's some additional resources to be able to close out my presentation. For the national resources, you can go on the cpsboard.org heat stroke prevention. That will give you all of our national partners to be able to see all the resources that they provide underneath their umbrellas. Then we have the safety connections, which give a general overview of PVH, and then you'll be able to locate your Florida or Texas right now web pages. Florida is the one that just got launched yesterday, but Texas is working on theirs, and we'll keep adding the state task force web pages onto the site for people to access. So I thank you so much for including me today. I know that I just provided you with a lot of information, but love to have you join us nationally, or if you want to start a statewide task force, I'm here to be able to support that as well. And remember that everything is customizable and flexible to be able to make sure that it meets all of your needs and your state's needs as well. So thank you very much.
Wonderful. Thank you so much to our presenters today, to Mandy, Alexis, and to Brittany. We do have time for some questions. So if you have questions, friends, please put them in the Q&A box, or you can raise your hand and we'll bring you off of mute. You guys covered everything so well, there's no questions.
Maybe they were so excited about the instructor prep guide that they're reading it right now.
Right? They downloaded it while you were talking. I love it.
Hey, I'll tell you what, as an instructor that's been at it for a while, like, oh, I know how to do this. I know what's in there and I know the answer. And taking time to study the instructor prep guide really showed me, one, I have my way of doing things and the way that things are supposed to be done. So I've got to set a new standard for myself and check this out. So I would encourage you all to do the same. It's written in there word for word what to do in every situation. And it's a good reminder that it's a great time to start fresh with the 2024 revision.
Yeah, it's a really good point, Mandy. We as instructors can all fall into some habits from time to time, so it's a good thing to just dial it back and check yourself on occasion.
So, Brittany, I
Don't
wanted
see
to
any.
mention how much I liked the comparison you did with the instructor guide and the technician guide so that everybody could see how it works. A reminder about, how to navigate that is really helpful. I think we could do an entire presentation just on how to navigate and how to read back and forth on the instructor guide. It's pretty
agree.
phenomenal the way it's put together.
I will tell you that having those tech guide pages with that blue background, it really helps delineate the two. So for me personally, that was a huge difference between 2020's instructor guide and this instructor guide that has made it super user friendly for me.
And Brittany, you mentioned that you've taught it. Any tips or tricks you want to share with us?
Yeah, we taught it on the very first day that it was able to be taught, which was really exciting. Biggest tip is let the videos do the talking. The videos in this curriculum are so great and thorough and informational. So let those videos do the talking. And then we are there, of course, as experts to answer questions, provide additional context, things like that. But if everyone is introduced to those concepts the same way, it just really works well. So that was my biggest takeaway.
We do
All right,
have a
friends, brace
question.
yourself. We've got one question.
Yeah, it
So,
says for skills 2, does it need to be the same car seat or same type of car seat?
It should be the same car seat and the same vehicle seat. Because if you think about it, all of our all-in-ones are very, very different. Even if you used an all-in-one from one brand and an all-in-one from another brand, they're going to be very different. So it would give the student a different experience. So yeah, it needs to be the same car seat and the same vehicle seating position.
fantastic. All right. So before we go, I do have a few closing announcements. We have 2 CEU webinars coming up in April and May. We hope to see everybody there. The next Educator Forum is Wednesday, May 28th, where we're going to dive into information on Canadian call-out boxes in the 2024 CPST certification training. So again, hope you can join us for that. Also, if you have suggestions for topics and/or speakers for future forums, please email secretariat@cpsboard.org. Jump ahead one more. Thank you. The Educators Forum will be posted in the Child Passenger Safety Learning Portal at carseateducation.org within 1 to 2 business days. Again, thank you so much, everyone, for joining us today. Thank you again to our amazing presenters for your time and efforts today. We hope everyone has a safe day, and thank you for all you do to help keep child passengers and their families safe. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks all.
Thanks, guys.
Thank you. Thank you.
Oh God, I'm close again. Bye.
Okay.
All right, I'm going to stop the recording.